Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordy and welcome back to another video about Need for Speed. So, we are just over 24 hours removed of everybody's initial reaction, including mine, on the fact that Criterion Games are returning as the lead developer of Need for Speed for the foreseeable future, including the first next generation game. As always, I've got this article talking about the future of Need for Speed, and honestly, we do really need to talk about a lot of things. I think my last video was my raw reactions. In this one, I am really pissed off that they've cut off Ghost, and trust me, I'm going to get into that in this video, but there's also some pretty valid reasons, and they should be in this article, and if they're not, I'll explain it. So, the headline reads, from thenobheads.com, "The future of Need for Speed. Is Criterion taking over, good or bad?" And obviously, it's got the picture, Need for Speed Heat and Most Wanted 2012 right there. So, I'm sure you've all heard the news by now. Future Need for Speed games will now be developed by Criterion Games, and Ghost Games as we knew it is dead. Man, that is actually so depressing. I've given so much support to Ghost over the past 2 years, and I mean, it paid off when we got this game, and then, you know, the last few months have been really confusing, but at least we've got a reason for that. But now the future's confusing, you know, so I don't know. The news comes as a shock, but also as something many probably saw coming. I mean, I think it was inevitable. EA don't really keep their company, their developers for that long, and also there was a lot of pretty poor reviews for the Need for Speed games. This one being the best, which is why it's a bit confusing why they decided to cut them off now, but let's just say we're lucky to have this game. After 6 years and 4 Need for Speed titles, mostly ranging from average to poor in reviews, it was inevitable that EA would step in and do something about it. So, like I just said, it was inevitable. EA were going to do something. So the silver lining to the news, however, is that most of Ghost's creative team will transition over to Criterion while the studio scales down back into EA Gothenburg and becomes an engineering hub for supporting EA studios. So basically, Ghost are going to become what Criterion have been for the past few years, because Criterion are bigger, Criterion are in England, and like I said earlier, that is the thing that makes this decision make sense. But obviously there's going to be a few grievances because it's Criterion, it's that name. There's always going to be a negative aura around Criterion and Need for Speed being in the same sentence. So during the time that Ghost were making the games, a much smaller Criterion was working on a new extreme sports IP, which was revealed during E3 2014 and then later cancelled in 2016. I really wish I knew what that was. But they've been working on the physics of the vehicles in Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefield titles, so like the Starfighter in Star Wars Battlefront, which actually looks pretty good. So, but that's flying and not driving on a road. I'm not sure how technology works in that aspect, if they're even any different, but I know flying and driving are different, like driving on a road are different, or whatever. So, before Need for Speed Heat was officially announced, EA Global Community Lead Ben Walk took to Reddit to assure people that EA understands what Need for Speed means to both players and its developers, stating, "Moving forward, we have an idea of what NFS is. 2015 is a good example of a game that captures the essence of NFS, if you will." And that is what people are worried about, because when Criterion made the games, it wasn't what people wanted. Okay, Most Wanted 2012, you can't tell me that's what you wanted unless you're a Burnout fan. But yeah, additionally, Criterion also published a tweet. This is completely new. Didn't talk about it yesterday. I don't think I knew about it until after I recorded the video. But and I quote, "They set us up beautifully with NFS Heat, and that they are looking forward to working with them again." So I think basically what's happening is that two studios are merging, but the big thing is, it doesn't matter if the employees are merging, even if a lot of them are from Ghost. You've got to talk about the executives, you know. They're going to have different executives. This isn't Ghost anymore, it's Criterion. So we could still get a different game made by the same people. I don't know, but that is worrying, and that's what I think a lot of people are worried about, including myself. So pretty much, Ghost Rebooted Vision will continue under the umbrella of Criterion, and that is what the writer of this article gathers. If so, then I quote, "I'm excited to see what Criterion can cook up with a next generation Need for Speed game for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, now with a much larger development team and in a location easier for them to attract talent." And that is England, my country. That's pretty cool. But with the much larger development team, I mean, these Need for Speed games, in my opinion, with a larger development team, if they carry on with this vision, we could end up with some really, really good Need for Speed games. But then again, we might not. This is really early goings. This is only day 2 of learning about this, you know, this news. It literally comes out of the blue, and it's quite shocking. Now, here's something that we want to know for the very short-term future. Another big concern this new change brings is the fate of Need for Speed Heat. Both 2015 and Payback had post-launch support for at least 6 months after release, adding new cars, events, features and more. Heat is reaching 4 months and has yet to get anything more substantial than a chat wheel and wheel support, features found in their previous games. Funnily enough, there's been features fans have been begging for since 2015 that started with the Criterion Games, such as free roam challenges. It's sad really, none of Ghost's NFS titles got the support they deserved. And in a time where live service titles are the standard, with new frequent content releases almost every month with games like Forza Horizon 4, Gran Turismo Sport and The Crew 2, Ghost have simply been unable to keep up, which ultimately has disappointed the player base. Heat, so far, has been supported even less than 2015. So, it goes on to say that for the last few months, fans have been extremely vocal about the series, but that's only because we honestly did not know what was happening. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure if it wasn't for this situation, we would have updates right now, and I think Ghost are literally unable to because they know they're going to get replaced, and EA won't let them release anything more than patch updates. Now that this has been announced, perhaps they'll start releasing stuff now. All we can do is hope, pretty much. Need for Speed 2015 was the reboot the franchise needed, being the starting point of what EA would have hoped would become a resurgence of the, at the time, 20-year-old franchise. I completely agree with this. Despite both 2015 and Payback's shortcomings, both titles sold incredibly well and resonated with hardcore fans. That's what I don't understand. If they sold well, why wouldn't, you know, you keep them? Here's why. Most Wanted 2012 had some scummy-ass microtransactions, and it was also called Most Wanted, so it obviously made, naturally, more money. Way more money. So, with Need for Speed Heat being regarded as the studio's best work, which makes the news all the more sad and worrisome for fans. Because, I mean, this is the best Need for Speed game we've had in years. I agree with Black Panther when he said he puts this on par with Most Wanted and Carbon. And Underground. I put this on par with those games. I wouldn't say that it's better than most of them. I think Underground's better, Most Wanted and Carbon are better, but I feel like it's up there, you know, it's up there with that list, which is why this is sad, because I feel like just when Ghost seem to have almost perfected it, they're liquidated pretty much and just turned back into EA Gothenburg. So the one word, and I quote, "The one word I'll always think of when I remember Ghost Need for Speed games is potential, something I hope with Criterion and Ghost merging can finally realise the potential of their Need for Speed games." And I really hope they actually are merging and that Ghost's ideas are going to be helped by Criterion, and hopefully Criterion don't have their own ideas which involve things like microtransactions and Most Wanted 2012 and pay to win microtransactions and stuff like that. So I just watched Straight Up Hippo's video about Black Panther's video. I don't know why he made that video, honestly. It's kind of shocked me. I honestly hope it doesn't cause any drama. You might find my comment in there somewhere, saying that, you know, having a go at Theo for his initial reactions is a bit of a dick move. But whatever. I found this comment and it says, "As far as I can tell from the comments thus far, it's an argument between a better racing game versus a better Need for Speed game." So This is something that I think is really true and was yet to be said, and I feel like this is a very, very good comment. People happy of the change seem to be primarily concerned with the improvements to gameplay, whereas people against it, like this person, are concerned about the soul. Heat is the closest thing to the Need for Speed of old. It's the first Need for Speed that he was mildly interested in since Carbon. Were there any good racing games made since then in the series? Probably. Were there any good Need for Speed games? He'd argue very much against most of them. So yeah, if you're looking forward to better racing games, congrats. You're probably / possibly going to get it. If you like him and was hoping to get better Need for Speed games specifically, it seems like we're in the minority and we'll probably be left behind again. Honestly, I think that could not be more true, to be fair. Personally, as a racing game, I have no issue whatsoever with Hot Pursuit 2010 and Most Wanted 2012. They are very good racing games, including Most Wanted 2012. That is a very, very good racing game, and thus why I enjoyed it at the time. If it came out now, I wouldn't have. You know, I wasn't as hardcore as a Need for Speed fan as I was then, and I wasn't old enough to really comprehend how scummy it was to call it Most Wanted and have all these microtransactions in. I think it was a really good game. I really like Most Wanted 2012, but I have to pretend it's not a Need for Speed game, you know, and that's the only way I can enjoy it. Nowadays, if I think of it as a Need for Speed game, I'm going to remember all the scummy shit they did with it, how it's not Most Wanted 2005, and yeah, I'm just not going to want to play it. Pretty much like Rivals, but I don't like Rivals because of its gameplay, mostly. But yeah, I feel like there's a difference between good racing games and good Need for Speed games. Need for Speed 2015 and Need for Speed Heat are the best games we've had in years because they are Need for Speed games, okay? Payback is arguable. Payback did something really, really different. I feel like Ghost took a gamble and it didn't pay off, okay? Things happen in the games industry all the time. I can't really have a big opinion on Payback as much because I didn't play it. I yet to play it. I'm going to play it at some point because I've looked at the gameplay. The gameplay is very good. It's when it comes to the atmosphere and the actual soul. I feel like Payback is a very good racing game. It's not a good Need for Speed game per se, but I guess we'll see. Rivals is a decent Need for Speed game. I mean, if you're not an Underground fan, it's obviously not, but if you're a fan of Hot Pursuit, it's an okay. It's okay. If it's a good racing game, it's not. It ain't a good racing game because there's so many bugs in it. But like I said, people are blaming Rivals on Ghost. When Ghost were merely just building up a studio. You have to remember that Need for Speed Rivals was made in 5-6 months. Me and TJ said it ourselves while playing the game. Need for Speed Rivals is pretty damn good for a game made in 6 months. It is pretty damn good. I mean, if you guys want me to return to Rivals in the foreseeable future, in the near future, just comment it down below or something, and the moment I see a comment about that, I'll bring Rivals back to the channel and we'll talk about that. So yeah, and he goes on to say, honestly, EA is bad. Need for Speed Heat and Star Wars Fallen Order are the only 2 games in recent memory that garnered any goodwill, and they're already backtracking on one of those, which is Need for Speed Heat. Yes, EA are a scummy ass company. I don't know why people are kind of sticking up for EA, saying this is a good thing, because Black Panther pointed out that Ghost have a UK company. You know, all that thing, all the things people are saying, you know, oh, they can't get a big enough company, they can't get a big enough developmental team in Gothenburg, which is in Sweden. Cool, that is a very good reason, but then you've got to remember that Ghost have a UK team. Why can't you just hire people for that? You know, they have a UK team, literally in the same offices as Criterion. I don't see why you have to liquidate Ghost, or I feel like you could do this, but keep the Ghost name. You know, if they're really merging, why wouldn't you keep Ghost's name? You know, why would you change it? Why would you name Criterion Games as the lead developer, despite all the negative aura it has around it? Because when people think Criterion, they think Burnout Paradise, okay? Brilliant, they think Burnout. awesome. Burnout is amazing. I love that game. But I love those games. But they also think, and if you're a hardcore Need for Speed fan, you're definitely going to think Hot Pursuit 2010, which is decent at best, and Most Wanted 2012 as a Need for Speed game. It's just not. It's Burnout Paradise 2, and that's not what Need for Speed fans would have wanted. So why on God's green earth, EA, would you name Criterion Games as the lead developer? Like, you didn't even bother to change the name, you know? People wouldn't be this worried if you'd have changed the publisher's, if you'd have changed the development team's name, you know, the developer's name. You could have changed it to anything. You could have just kept Ghost. You could have just kept the name Ghost, and people, you wouldn't even have to announce much. People would not be worried in the slightest. I wouldn't even be making these videos, you know, if they'd have done that. And they could have done that. Ghost have a UK team. Why'd you have to rename it Criterion? And you're just literally going to make people worried for the franchise, because last time Criterion were in control, it killed it. They killed the franchise. And yes, they did most of the work on Rivals, okay? It is Criterion. 80% of the Criterion team, no, 80% of the Ghost team that worked on Rivals were Criterion employees, okay? That percentage kind of went down a bit going into 2015, but you know what I'm saying. 80% of it were Criterion, you know? And only 20% was Ghost, and the game was made in 6 months, and you can really see that in the physics engine, but everything else was perfectly, like, pretty good, you know? Other than the physics engine. And I know the physics engine is a huge part, which is why Need for Speed Heat is a bit off at times. And I think that's something that they just can't nail right now. I feel like that is something that Criterion did nail. The physics are pretty good in Hot Pursuit and Most Wanted 2012. But still, if you're going to take away the soul of Need for Speed, which is what those games did, if you're going to take away the soul and make it a good racing game, you're going to lose a lot of the fan base, you know? Because there are better racing games. You can make a good racing game, but people are still going to play Forza. People are still going to play The Crew. You know, people come to Need for Speed to play Need for Speed, okay? Like, you can't say if they made another Shift that people would be happy about that, you know? Because it'll take away the soul of it. And it'd be the same if they made a, you know, another Most Wanted 2012, another game like that. And Hot Pursuit would be very mixed. The only thing you can go with is what we've been doing. We're heading in the right direction. Ghost put the game in the right direction with 2015. Took a little bit of a setback with Payback, but now we're back on track with Heat. This is the game we should have got in 2017, you know? But it is what it is. I think it wasn't the right track until this happened. So I have a comment from my last video, from yesterday's video pretty much, from Vicious YT. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, truly sorry, bro, but you really put a good comment replying to me when I replied to you in my comment section. So Vicious YT says, EA thinks Criterion had a huge success because the NFS Most Wanted 2012 sold really well, not because of its development, features, etc., but because of Most Wanted in the title. Then Rivals made people think it would be a story game, so it sold good and made EA profit. And honestly, it's not a case of made people think. It is a story-driven game. Like, as much as that's hard to say, Rivals does have a certain story to it. Really basic, but I feel like it got the job done, you know? I like Rivals' story. It's easy to understand, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, it made EA profit, sold good because, you know, they were making people think one thing and, you know, warping it into another, more so with Most Wanted 2012. So, EA and Criterion didn't have to do much. Take licensed cars, put them in the game, worry nothing about the customization. And that's another thing people are worried about. People are worried about customization being taken out of Need for Speed. And I think that is, quite honestly, the biggest worry, to be fair, because that would be ripping the soul of Need for Speed out, you know? Need for Speed needs customization. If it doesn't have that, it's not really Need for Speed, is it? You know? Criterion was just adding DLCs to other off-topic games. That's what they were doing for the last few years. EA realised that in Need for Speed Heat they had to deliver just too much, so they changed the plan and went for the easy way out. So people, that's a very good comment, and that sets upon a whole different thought process of EA's, you know, intentions here, you know. People are trying to say, oh, EA are not the bad guy, they've made Need for Speed have a 2-year development cycle, you know, but Ghost are a small studio, and they're obviously not giving them enough money to hire many people, so I get, or maybe there's just not that many people available in Gothenburg, so obviously they moved it to the UK, but like I said, Ghost already have a company in the UK, or they have a team in the UK. So why would you take the developmental right away from the Ghost Games name? Okay, you could just take Criterion's employees and put them in the Ghost UK team. People probably wouldn't mind that much in the slightest, but no. You change it from Ghost Games to Criterion Games, and people are, quite honestly, losing their fucking minds. For good reason. It's Criterion Games, okay? I don't want to keep repeating points, but I have to repeat it to get it home, to get the point home, so people realize how bad this could be, you know? This is Criterion Games, who worked on Hot Pursuit and Most Wanted 2012. Different employees or not, different executives or not, end of the day, everybody answers to the big man. EA, Electronic Arts, you know? And if EA want one thing done, then they're going to get that thing done. And Ghost, they tried their best to listen to the fans, and that's the issue. How do we know if Criterion are going to listen to us like Ghost did, you know? How do we know if this is actually a different Criterion? Simple, we don't. So you can't have a go at people, and I'm looking at people like Hippo, and in the comment section, you can't have a go at people for being, you know, skeptical and scared for the future of Need for Speed, okay? I love the content creators that we have in this community, but we can't have a go at each other because we're worried and we have different opinions. Black Panther has a huge right to be worried. That guy went through a lot of pain, and he did a lot for the franchise to get it to where it was. I think if it wasn't for him complaining about Need for Speed Rivals and Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012 and everybody else who turned Rivals into a meme, went at it on social media at Ghost, if it weren't for that, we would never have had the reboot, you know? We could have had a Rivals 2, for all we know. So, honestly, he has more than a right to, you know, be worried about this, because he has been there for Ghost since the beginning. He remembers being invited and testing out Need for Speed 2015. I remember watching videos, okay? I know I've only been back playing Need for Speed since 2018, but here's the thing. I quit playing Need for Speed in the first place because of Most Wanted 2012 and Rivals. They were just so bad. And I don't want it to return to that era because it made me quit at the time. I know I was like young, but it made me quit. I'm 17 now, almost 18. I'm not going to work out how young I was then, but I was pretty young, to say the least. I was at least 10 years old, something like that. So I was young. And I don't want Need for Speed to return to that state, you know? That would be horrible. That would be absolutely horrible, because it just undoes everything and all the pain that Black Panther and other content creators have been through to get Need for Speed to this point. I don't care what you think about Need for Speed Payback, because that game is more soul and is better than what we had before 2015, okay? Regardless of what you think about Payback. Ghost took a risk and it didn't pay off. Wow, who cares now, because we have Need for Speed Heat. And now we've lost Ghost. And Heat has just been left out there. We have no ideas. what is in the foreseeable future, because like I said in yesterday's video, we need to get something. We need to have an under the hood article or something from Criterion or Ghost or whatever, whoever, I don't care. We just need some official news on what the hell is happening, you know? All we know is that the developmental team's changing, but here's another thing, and here's a little bit of a bright spark. I have seen and read that Ghost Games are still going to be working on this game, on Need for Speed Heat. They're still working on the updates. They're still going to put them out. I really hope, since it's Ghost, that one, they're going to be good, and two, they're going to communicate with us now that the secret's out. We know why they haven't been able to update for the last few months. Now that the secret's out, will they be able to communicate with us as much as they did before Heat and as much as they did in 2015? Who knows? I don't bloody know. I just really hope, for our sake, that this division needs to stop, and we shouldn't have a go and try to debunk other people's opinions, even if they're a little over exaggerated, you know? Because I gotta say, yesterday my video was a little bit over exaggerated, but I'm still pissed off because I've seen all the videos on YouTube about Ghost, you know, and where they came from and where Need for Speed has come and how far it has come since Rivals. You know, it's come far. Compare this game with Rivals. These games are not just your average games. If Ghost are really this small, these are fucking amazing. And you've got a small team of hugely talented developers, you know? You'd think this game was made by a bigger company, a bigger developmental team, but it isn't. But if a small team like that can make this, then some may think that in the foreseeable future, we could have an even better game. But like I said, if people are really thinking, that Criterion is Ghost 2.0, I doubt it. Because if it really was, why would EA change the name, you know? People are worried for very, very good reason with Criterion Games, and I don't disagree with neither. I agree that we should have some hope that Criterion might listen to us, but I also agree that we need to be skeptical and we can't just hope, you know? We were hoping for a good game, and the game we wanted in 2017, we got Payback. A good game, a very good Need for Speed game. Well, a very good racing game, in my opinion, for its single player, but not what we wanted, you know? We need to keep an eye on Criterion. We can't. I'm sick of all these people giving Criterion so much faith, undeserved faith, in my opinion, because they've done nothing to warrant that faith. You know, people like Need for Speed fans, please be skeptical. Please voice your discontent and opinions, you know, because that's the only way we're going to get a good Need for Speed game, you know. Nobody wants another Most Wanted 2012, but even if it's a different Criterion game, nobody wants a game that we don't want. That's my point of view. That's my opinion, and ended it just in time, as you can tell by the gameplay. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. This will not be my last video on this topic. I'll make a video at some point regarding the future of this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Leave your opinions in the comments below. I want to thank you all so much for the support in the last video, and I want to thank you so much for the continued support that I know I will get. I love you guys, I love your opinions, and I look forward to conversing with you guys pretty soon. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon. Peace!